Basketball fans, Akil Augustine coming to you from Scotiabank Arena for our final show of this season. Akil Augustine joined by Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones. Gentlemen, long time no see, but unfortunately we won't hear from you yet because someone more important.
I was going to say Alice Cooper, School's Out for Summer, but
because I was singing it earlier.
No,
I embedded it in your brain. Still, someone more important has spoken today, and that is the president of the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri, with his end-of-season press conference. We take you to some clips now.
Well, thanks for coming out. Tough season for us, and very challenging year on and off the court. And but I think we learned a lot from this, and I think our team will grow from this, and we're going to take a lot of the positives that came out of this year, but definitely a very challenging year. I commend our coaching staff, our players, I think the organization, our fans, for I think putting them through a year like this. It's not easy for all of us. I think over the last decade we've seen winning in this organization, and for us to go through a year like that, this was tough on everybody. But we really see the bright side. I think sports is a cycle, and our organization is going to go through different cycles, and this is our time. But we're going to take all the positives from this and build on as much as we can going forward. I think Darko and his staff did an excellent job with the situation. If I think of positives, I think some of the talent, Scotty Barnes, his upside growth, as a player, all-star. I think we are very excited about that with our ball club. So tough year overall, but we're looking to the future now, and this is the process that I think we have to go through in this organization, and we'll come out of it well.
So what do you mean by patience in terms of looking into the future? Fans, I'm sure, are anxious to get back winning. What does patience look like to you?
I think we're in a very unique situation because sometimes you start this rebuild with draft picks and space, and you try to have talent here and there. I think the most difficult thing to do when you do things like this, I think, is finding the Scotty Barnes of the world. And we're lucky to have a really good young player like this to build around. So I think it's going to be steady in his time, and we'll see. How we grow. So sometimes rebuilds can take 3 to 6 years. Sometimes, teams act before, but I think we're going to see how this process goes and use our instincts with it. But patience is going to be a big thing with this team.
You heard from the man himself, and I guess as Raptors fans, when they listen to those comments, the thing that jumps out at you is 3 to 6 years. Now, the Raptors sped up their time. Oh, Jonesy, just jump in.
No.
Okay, I was going to say the Raptors kind of, you talk about a rebuild, but they were rebuilding on the fly. They've gotten themselves some pieces for the future. Where do you see them, Jonesy, landing in terms of that timeline that was provided by Masai of 3 to 6?
I think you make a great point with rebuilding on the fly. Yeah. And Masai talked about it, the fact that sometimes the cycle, as I said, the Ferris wheel, you got to go right to the bottom to pick up new passengers.
Usually.
The Raptors didn't have to do that. I guess they did in a year when they weren't in Toronto. And the Tampa tank, as it happened to be, got them Scotty Barnes. And there was a real interesting number, and I haven't revisited it in terms of hard, cold research. But I remember Brian Colangelo talking about the lottery and saying when you get in the lottery, at that point when he was a general manager, he said it took sometimes 7 years to get out of it. Like you did not, it was a slow grinding process. Obviously the league has changed now. The talent coming in, as we know, free agency happens when a guy's unhappy in some place and he says, I want out. And all of a sudden a team takes a jump. But I think the timeline Toronto is on is a good one because the young talent is already maybe pre-established in a way with guys like Quickly and Barrett who have been in the league and know what's expected and can play a little. They're like young vets, even a guy like Scotty. So I'm not the general manager, I'm not the president, but I don't see 6 years.
No.
I don't. Particularly with draft picks this year, the ability to make moves, package the way the cap goes. I don't see it that long a timeline, and it could very well turn around really, really quickly. And I like the pieces that Toronto has. I really, really do.
Sherm, your reaction to the comments?
Yeah, I think Masai is just tempering expectations. And as he talked about, there's this city, country, fans that support the Raptors. The last 10 years have been pretty special.
Yes.
Spoiled.
Yes.
Very special. And I think when you, as Masai said, when you're used to that kind of success, it's hard to see what this can turn into at this point. And I think fans that have come into the picture in the last 10 years or so have figured out that all the Raptors do is win games. They're in the playoffs every year. They win games. And now to realize a season like this, Masai is saying this is a part of it. This is how it goes. When you're trying to, as he said, kind of restart or reorganize things, it takes some time. It takes patience. It takes an understanding of the process too. And him saying 3 to 6 years to me is him just saying, listen, Masai is a very smart individual. He knows how to work things. His vision, he puts it into play. And if he has success, he has success. So 3 years would be a great mark for him. But there's also the long-term end of it, and that's 6 years potentially. And he's just saying, hey, this is where it could fall. Now, we saw Masai make a trade with DeMar DeRozan turn into Kawhi Leonard, and boom, it happened.
And that was 6 years.
100%.
That
and
was
it
6
happened.
years.
So the question is, for Masai, he's just sending the messaging out to say, hey, we're on this. This is going to be a process. I know this is not what you're used to, but we're going to figure this out. And this is kind of the time frame that we feel it'll be done in. And if you follow the NBA and teams, you know that it's not an unusual thing to hear that time frame in a situation like this.
More comments from Masai Ujiri and his end-of-season availability. Here it goes.
Masai, you spoke in the offseason about changing the team's culture. Do you feel that the culture has changed, and if so, in what ways?
I maybe I was a little bit unfair, like with the other guys, but on trying to, keep a stance and try to get everybody back in the right direction. So maybe it came off wrong, how I used that. But I was trying to be very aggressive, with our team in trying to get us back, to who we are, playing the right way, playing for each other and winning, back to winning, which I think we've proved that we can do in this organization. So I don't think as people, as persons, our culture, ever went anywhere, but I think we got away a little bit from maybe playing how, we would, all of us, would want to play or want to see the game. And I think now, Darko has instilled, a certain way, and we are going to move with that. But I think the culture is one of the things that has held us, from falling apart in, tough times like this. And I think I'm very proud of the organization, the team, ownership, everybody, staying with this and grinding it through, because it's not easy on anybody. It's just not. You know, like I'm sure it wasn't easy for you guys to watch. There sometimes it's unwatchable. Sometimes, you know, like you feel, but we have to grind through it. We've seen all other organizations go through this, and we're going to. Yes, but if there's one thing I think, you know, like has never moved, you know, like I think our culture has really kept us through this, and I'm proud of all the workers, all the departments, everybody that has kind of contributed to this.
Masai obviously asked about comments he made almost a year ago today at last season's end of season presser. What do you guys think of his, I guess, acceptance that maybe he was a bit aggressive when criticizing both players and personnel on the culture and trying to light a fire under the organization, Sherm? He seemed to take some ownership for maybe a bit too much pressure. How do you think the organization responded from that?
Well, when the boss makes a decision and they make comments that are, I guess it puts everybody on blast in a certain way, people straighten up. People start to pay attention.
Even if it's not you.
Yeah, because now you've made it public that in-house stuff is a problem. And I think what Masai was trying to do in that moment, I'm not speaking for him, but from my perspective, he was just saying that what's happening right now is not how we should be playing or how we should be acting. And he made some sweeping decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine. I have no problem with that. Now, him apologizing for the aggressiveness of it, I can understand that because wording and how he could have presented it, he might feel he could have done it differently. But the message is still the same. He didn't like what was happening. He didn't like the selfishness, and he called it out. It had to be dealt with, and he dealt with it. And I think sometimes you're in an unenviable position when you're a boss that you've got to say the things that aren't going to be the most palatable to people's ears, but you got to do it. If your goal is the big picture, it's the overall success of the situation, sometimes people's feelings are going to get hurt, and that's just the nature of doing business.
It's leadership. Leaders sometimes make difficult decisions to help things move forward. And, you know, Masai called it last year, and then he was the first one to act on it when he went out, as we look back in retrospect now, and hired Darko for the style that he wanted to see the team. Darko was the guy that was going to instill that. They did an extensive search. He's the one that came out of it. And you look at some of the results this year, wins notwithstanding. How many 30-assist games this year? Record. Number of assists in a season. Even with 25 wins or what, record.
And
so
that's the identity he wanted to put
that's
in place.
the identity. So after he said, you know, we're going to change this, we're not going to be, he made the first move. As Sherm said, he addressed it. He made the first move. Here's the guy that's going to lead it. And here's the philosophy we're going to take. This guy's in line with it, and you guys are going to follow him.
Back with Sherman Jonesy, looking back upon the 23-24 season, it goes down as one of the 5 worst when you're talking wins and losses in the franchise's history. So, Sherm, you know, when you talk to your daughters, when you talk to your friends, historically, you look back on this season, how do you contextualize what happened this year?
Well, I've said this many times. I mean, we've been around and we've seen a lot of losing early in this franchise, and this season didn't feel anything like those losing seasons.
True, very true.
And that says something to me. And I think the reason why I personally feel that way is because I didn't see this team fracture. I didn't see the infighting. I didn't see the bickering. I didn't see the bad body language. I thought Darko did an amazing job in terms of keeping these guys together, focused, pulling for each other, playing hard, being professional. He didn't allow bad habits to creep in. And this is fertile soil in a losing season for those things to kind of show their ugly faces. And I think he did a great job. And then when I look at, you know, the moves that were made and how it's repositioned this team moving forward, RJ, Emmanuel, Scotty's ascension after the All-Star break, then he gets hurt. Well, that trajectory continues. We don't know where this group would be. Kelly Olynyk re-signing. I mean, this is big. I think he adds that veteran presence and versatility. There are a lot of positives. So this does not feel like the record looks to me. And I know your record is your record. You earned your record.
But I think this is.
But
I would disagree on that one.
Well, you earned it. You played the games, so you earned it. But
feel like
there's an asterisk.
Yes.
I agree. There's
Yes.
an asterisk, and that to me is why this season feels more promising, and it has me more optimistic about what's coming down the road than it would have in previous years when I experienced losing seasons.
Cosign.
Stamped. I knew there was going to be a dip. There's always, when you make a change, there's always the implementation dip. When you start to do something new, whether you're changing your shot or your golf swing, or as I have referred to many times, you're renovating your house, it always gets worse before it gets better. I knew there would be a dip. How much of a dip? I had no idea. You got a new coach, a new system. He's trying to play a different way, something that's being reinforced from the top. I knew that things were going to take a little bit of a dip. I know they're going to come out. I didn't know when they were going to come out. We've talked about the timeline before and what it could be. Masai's talked about it. But to Sherm's point, man, I was around for a lot of those losing ones in the early.
Our Raptors historian.
And I'm going to tell you, the first season was 21-61. And it felt like 9-73 at times. It did.
Because, a reverse 96 Bulls.
Well, because to Sherm's point, I was around and I could see the fracturing. I could see who wasn't aligned with whom in the organization, and now people have to choose sides. Didn't see any of that here. Didn't see any of it. And again, I go back to the patience from the organization, the fan base, people that understand what the long-term goal is. You know, there's an old adage that says, the obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. And people continue to focus on the goal. And there are good things here. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think with the players that are here, the organizational philosophy, the guy that's leading the charge on the bench in Darko, I see really, really good things in the future.
In the words of one of our generation's great filmmakers, Christopher Nolan, in his screenplay for Batman, night is darkest before the dawn. It's the fourth quarter, the final frame of the year, and we look into the future for our Toronto Raptors. Jonesy.
You got your crystal ball underneath there?
No. I'm leaning on you two for this one. So let's talk about it.
Mine's fuzzy, brother.
Going into the offseason now, obviously a lot of the talk surrounded around this draft pick. Right? Finish bottom six to secure yourself a good shot at getting yourself a top six player. Well, they're in six, but there's no guarantees. Looking at this draft, a lot of people say, well, this is one of the weaker drafts, but, you can't really tell until you're 3-4 years out what this draft provides. So for this Raptors group, when you think about the opportunities that are ahead of the summer league, free agency, the draft, not necessarily asking for predictions, but as professionals looking at that summer, how important of a summer is this, and what are the opportunities to make moves, Jonesy?
It's important for the guys that are here. They always say a player is made when the lights go down. The lights are dark here in Toronto right now until September, until training camp. And it's an opportunity for a lot of the young pieces that Toronto is counting on. Scotty, IQ.
Get his bag. Get IQ his bag.
When it's done, hopefully it'll be done. RJ, Grady, it's a time for them to make the improvements. Those are the things that they can control. And then you look at the other stuff, which they have intervening variables, right? Free agency.
It's not the best free agent class, and a lot of the guys that are pending free agents kind of have promissory deals when you look at Buddy Hield, who likely will be a Sixer, and other guys. Right. I don't think it's a big class.
So those are things you can't control, right? The free agency. But get those guys, the guys that are going to be here, get them together so they can work out, play together, start to develop some chemistry, some intuitiveness with one another. And it's going to be done with Darko, enhancing his system.
Rico Hines runs.
He'll be, Darko will be, I'm sure he'll be front and center. There are arrangements being made for, visits and working guys out and putting plans together on exit meeting as to what guys need to do in the summer. So, that's the stuff that they can control. And as we've talked about, they're not starting at ground zero in this build. They're a little bit ahead of the curve. Now, how far they jump and how quickly they jump depends on some of the things that they can control. And then the front office has to do their stuff. Masai's always talked about, he does his work, most of his work in the summer, right? Build a team and then let it develop, let it come together. He was forced to, and things dictated a changes during the year this year. So maybe he's got a jump already on what's going on. But I expect that, when we come back in September and training camp is ready, if we think there's optimism now, I think there's going to be a whole lot more going down that road.
Well, I think, to your point, there's the idea of internal development is huge.
Which has been preached before.
And it's got to be. And I think now more than ever for this franchise, because not only are these guys young, but you really don't know them. You don't know IQ. You don't know RJ the way you're going to know them after a good summer of work, a training camp with these guys. There's going to be some understanding of who they are. So I think more now than ever, the internal development of this young core is really what is where the optimism really abounds, because you understand that Scotty, RJ, Emmanuel, those guys moving forward are the success of this franchise.
Don't tamper with it too much.
And again, you said it's not the best free agent class, but in a 3 to 6 year plan, you just might need a piece right now just to move it along a little bit until the next situation becomes available.
Hope springs eternal for your Toronto Raptors. To wrap up this show, I got to give some shout-outs. One to some guy named Jake. No, I'm playing. That's our super producer, Jake LaRue. Shout out to the homie Jasmine holding us down. Anna's not here, but we want to give Anna some love for supporting us on the show. Also, my guy Digger, Jeff Orm on the graphics, our editor. Am I missing anyone, Jake? Yeah, shouts out to Justin and Lloyd and my damn self. I want to big me up, too. I think I did a damn good job hosting the show. Look at Sherm's face. Sherm's like, I can't believe he did that.
Yeah, it's a sad day.
I'd
also like to thank Sherman Jonesy for holding me down. Who else we got to thank? We got to thank Ashley Docking. We got to thank Warren Ward. We got to thank Javon Shepard. We got to thank
Eric
Smith.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Savannah Hamilton.
Man, that's a bad look for me. Shout out my girl Savannah. That's it for us. We'll see you guys in the summer. More Raptors Today to come, eventually.
Thanks for watching the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel. Check out our latest videos and subscribe for more.
Trent answers back. Gary, sidestep. 3.